Welcome back, guys, and now that we got the cannon behaving how we wanted it to, what we can do now is start shooting meatballs out of it. Now this is going to be a couple steps, so let me explain to you guys exactly what we're going to do. See, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say whenever we click, first spawn a meatball or create a meatball right here. Now once it's created, get the position, or in other words the angle of the cannon, and fling out the meatballs or shoot it with a certain force out of the cannon. So the first thing, of course, we need to do in that little like step process is create a meatball right at the tip of the cannon. So in order to do that, we just need to add another event, and then this event is actually a mouse event because it's going to be determining the clicks, and it says on any click. So basically when we click with the mouse at all, what do we want to happen? Well, all we want to happen is well, I click action, probably should have said that. And for the cannon, and this is actually under miscellaneous, it's called spawn another object. Basically create an object where this object is. So spawn another object, and it says, okay, I need a little bit of information. First of all, what object do you want me to create? And of course, we want you to create a meatball, and it says on what layer. Well, if you look up here, the game layer, everything is happening on this game layer 1, all the cool stuff. And for this image point, I'll tell you guys what this does in a minute, but for right now, put 1. And this is actually pretty important to remember. So remember that our image point is 1, and what this does is basically says, where exactly do you want me to create this meatball object? In the back of the cannon, in the front, top, bottom? Well, we said image point 1, click done. So now what we need to do is go to the layout, and in this cannon object, tell it where image point 1 is. So if you double click this, you can see that we have one image point right here, and that's image point 0. And that's the origin, and we don't want the meatball created back here, or else we're not going to see it. We actually want it created right at the tip of the cannon, right in the mouth, wherever you, I don't know, the opening, I don't know what like cannon parts are called. So we need to create a new image point, and whenever we create one, it is 1 by default, because remember, computers start counting at 0, so this new one is 1. Now in order to move this to the tip, you can just go ahead and hit 6 on your keyboard, because remember 8 moves it to the top, 4 left, 2 bottom, or 6 moves it right to the mouth. And check it out, our image point 1 is now right where we want it properly. So now if we close out of this, it'll automatically save it for us, and if we run this game, then it should work. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and we now have a meatball that just gets created. Click, 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 click. Alright, so now, you know, this would be a good app right now if we were just making like I don't know, like spaghetti or something, but we actually want these meatballs to fling around, come out with some force, instead of just plopping on the screen. Now the first thing we always need to do before we actually start firing this thing out of the cannon is we need to add a new behavior to it. So click on this meatball so it's selected, and over on the left hand side hit behaviors, and this is going to allow you to add a new behavior to the meatball. And what we want to do is, since it doesn't have any yet, just add a new one, and scroll down, and you're gonna see physics right here. And as you can see in that little description, it says simulate realistic object physics. Now what this means in everyday terms is pretty much treat it like an object, like real life. It now has gravity. We can now, hold on a second, my ear is itching. Alright, so basically it now has gravity. We can now shoot it out like a bullet. It just doesn't appear on the screen and stay in one place like you were just in empty space. So actually, if you run this game right now, we can see that that one falls down. Alright, so of course and I'm using the little quotes with my hands even though you guys can't see it. So now our meatball is affected by gravity, but we didn't tell it to shoot out of the cannon with a certain force yet. So let's go ahead and do that now that it's actually being treated like a real world object. So the cool thing about this is, before I do that, since this already has gravity applied to it. Unlike our shooter game that we made a couple video series ago, it isn't gonna shoot in a straight line. It's actually when you aim it up here, let's say it's gonna go up and just like a ball would if you threw it in real life, it's gonna go down realistically instead of just a straight line like a bullet. So in the event sheets, what we need to do is we actually need to add an action to the mouse click event. So right now we're just saying, okay, when you click the mouse, create a meatball right at the cannon. But now what we want to do is we want to say, actually take that meatball and shoot it out with some force. So if we add an action right here and we click the meatball, then if you scroll down and you see physics, there's actually a bunch of them. Under this physics, we want to put apply force at angle. And this is basically going to ask you a couple questions. The first one is the force itself, and it can be kind of confusing unless you've been like working with it a little bit. But the higher, of course, the faster it comes out. So just set this at 1,000. Actually, just set it at 900 for right now. Now the angle of this is we pretty much just say, well, it's dependent on the angle of the cannon. Whatever the cannon angle is, that's what angle we want you to shoot the meatball out of. So in order to do that, just type in the name of your object, which is cannon, and look at that, the first one. So now when we click done, we're basically saying whenever we click the mouse, create a meatball right at the cannon before, and also shoot it out at a certain velocity dependent on the angle of the cannon. So now whenever we run this, of course our first one's going to drop, and that actually looks pretty funny right now. So it's now shooting meatballs. And I don't know if you guys can see, but there is a little bit of a curve there. It doesn't just go straight down. Just like actually if I fire that up, you can see that the meatball is going to come down right here due to the effect of gravity right there. So that is pretty freaking sweet. We got, a nice physics real world meatball. So if you ever threw a meatball in real life at someone, it would act the same way. And of course, if your force is ever too high or too low, we can adjust that later. But for now, our meatball is good to go. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.